Good morning. My name's Stuart Little. Myself and Mallory Lutz, who's on the call here, are with Little Government Relations, and we provide the advocacy government relations services for the Shawnee Mission School District. In a regular, normal year, we would be gathering at the bistro, probably having some coffee and danishes and having a conversation about issues and upcoming issues in the 2021 legislative session. And of course, we are now all on Zoom. I want to note a couple of things right off the top and give you some idea of the agenda. We've kind of, be mindful of your time, have scheduled it an hour for the conversation here. This is not a meeting of the school board, but called by us to give you all a chance to talk about some legislative issues and some updates from the district. The meeting has been noticed and is being broadcast on YouTube through the school district's communications department, so the public has an opportunity to observe. The board president, Owsley, is going to introduce board members that are present. I will go through, and I'm trying to keep track of our legislators who are joining in, give you all a chance to introduce yourselves. And then David Smith, communications director at the district, is going to describe for you a bit of the process that we'll go through in order to keep the questions focused, in particular for you all to have an opportunity. You can enter them in the chat box, and David will curate those at the end. Dr. Fulton will make a couple of presentations about COVID student achievement, the bond issue, and then we'll have time for Q&A at the end and maybe a little legislative chat. President Owsley, did you want to do the board introductions?
Sure. Thank you, Stuart. I know that we've got Dr. Sinclair here, the vice president of the board, and she represents the Shawnee Mission East area. We have Brad Stratton, who's another at-large member, and he served on the board. He's in his second term now. Sarah Goodburn, who is our North area representative, who's serving her third term on the board. Jessica Hembry, South area representative, who's in the middle of her first term, and what a first term it has been. And also Jamie Borgman is with us today, and she is our Northwest area rep, and Reverend Laura Guy, who is our Shawnee Mission West area rep. So that is all of us, I believe. We were all able to make it, so thank you for having us, and I'll turn it back over to you, Stuart.
Thank you. I think I've done a list of, particularly since some of you all are newly elected, congratulations. You are welcome. I'll just go down the list that I have here of folks, and please, rather than all of us staring at each other and who goes next, I'm just going to shout out your name, and please introduce yourself. Marilyn Poskin.
Good morning, everyone. Marilyn Poskin, representative-elect for House District 20, which is Leawood and Overland Park, and I'm really glad to be here this morning. I am going to be on the Education Committee, and that was one of the main issues in my platforms when I ran for office. Thank you for having us this morning.
Representative Stogsdill.
Good morning. I'm Jerry Stogsdill. I represent the 21st District in the Kansas House. My district runs basically from 67th to 83rd Street and state line to Metcalf. And I've served on the Education Committee for the last 4 years, and I'm looking forward to acting as ranking Democrat this year on the Education Committee. So I'm hoping that we'll have a good year. We've looks like we have some Republicans on there that may be more friendly to public education than some have in the past. So we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope we can get some good things done.
Thank you. Representative Owsley.
Hey, good morning. I'm struggling here. Hopefully this is the last Zoom meeting I have to be on before session, and I can get a better setup when I get my own office. I am Representative Owsley. I represent District 24. I am going to be on the K-12 Budget Committee this year. I've spoken with our minority leader about, some of the things to anticipate, and we could see some rather public school unfriendly issues come out of that committee this year. So I'm looking forward to serving for our community.
Representative Woodard.
Hi there, everyone. I'm Brandon Woodard. I represent District 30, which is half Shawnee Mission, half Olathe Public Schools. I'm happy to be here. I'm not on the K-12 Budget Committee or Education Committee, but I look forward to supporting public education this session.
Thank you. Representative Ruiz?
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm Representative Susan Ruiz, and I represent District 23, which is comprised of Shawnee, Lenexa, and Overland Park. And I'm looking forward to our meeting today and seeing where I can be of help.
Great, thank you. Representative Esau?
Good morning. I'm Charlotte Esau. I represent District 14, which is half Olathe, half Lenexa. I have a little bit of Shawnee Mission up in the north part of my district, kind of the southwest part of Shawnee Mission School District. Happy to be here.
Great, thank you. Representative Featherston? Representative-elect, I guess those of you that aren't officially been sworn in yet. So.
Hi, I'm Linda Featherston. I'm from District 16. I have all 3 of the big Johnson County districts in my district. I live 5 houses from Oak Park Carpenter, where I'm proud to say my daughter just started her first job this week there, and Rose Hill is also in my district.
Great. Representative Hoy?
Good morning. I'm Joella Hoy. I will be sworn in to represent the 17th House District on Monday. It's Lenexa, Shawnee, Lake Quivira, all in the Shawnee Mission School District, and I will be serving on the K-12 Education Budget Committee.
Thank you. Representative Clayton?
Good morning, everyone. Representative Stephanie Clayton. I've got 2 kids in Shawnee Mission. I'm really excited about the bond issue because John Deemer is where my son is right now, and it's a very important neighborhood school to my legislative district. So, you know, just give me the tools that I need and I'll help you guys make that happen. Really looking forward to that. I'm not on any education committees this year, primarily business related committees, but as you know, education and business are intrinsically linked. So I look forward to working with you to see what we can accomplish.
Thank you. Senator Sykes?
Good morning, and sorry I was a little late getting on. My schedule is a little crazy at the moment, but Senator Dinah Sykes represent all of the city of Lenexa and Northwest Overland Park. So I have Shawnee Mission, DeSoto, and Olathe in my district. I am ranking on education and serving as the newly elected minority leader. So lots of exciting things going on and opportunities. I also serve on the children's cabinet, so early childhood education is a huge passion of mine. I'm very glad to have those conversations with Shawnee Mission, being partners with you as well. But look forward to working with you this session. And as always, my door is always open. My communications director is Helena Buckman, and then Corey Sheedy is my chief of staff. So if you need anything and you can't get me, they will know exactly how to get a hold of me. So thank you for having us this morning.
Thank you, Senator. Senator-elect Warren?
I'm not sure my video is working for some reason, but can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, I apologize. Tried to start the video, but okay. So yes, I am Kelly Warren. I am currently representative for District 28 and Senator-elect for District 11, which includes Leawood and Overland Park. And my Senate district includes Shawnee Mission and Blue Valley schools. I'm the proud mom of 4 Blue Valley kids, one having graduated, so she's in college, but 3 currently in K-12 Blue Valley schools. As a representative, I didn't serve on education committees, but I was proud and honored to support and vote yes for the school funding bill that resolved kind of the school finance issue that had been going on for decades, that the Kansas Supreme Court approved as well, our resolution. So I'm glad about that. And I am the newly appointed chairwoman of Senate Judiciary Committee. So we'll be looking at a lot of issues that affect a broad array of areas, from probably schools to businesses to healthcare a little bit. So it'll be a great, interesting committee, and would welcome any questions throughout session that anyone has. So and I do want to mention that My Senate district includes where I went to high school, which is Shawnee Mission South. So my husband and I are both graduates of Shawnee Mission South, and proud to be having grown up in K through 12 Shawnee Mission all the way. So glad to be here. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Senator. Senator-elect Corson.
I'm Ethan Corson, Senator-elect for Senate District 7, which represents Northeast Johnson County. My district is all Shawnee Mission School District. I'm a Shawnee Mission School District grad. Went to Shawnee Mission schools from my first day of pre-kindergarten through my graduation from Shawnee Mission South. We've got a little one who is going to be the next generation of Shawnee Mission public school students here in a few years, going to Highlands Elementary, which is right up the street from us. So I'm really excited to get to work starting on Monday and to do good things for our community and our kids.
Thank you. Unless I have missed someone, that should be all of our legislative delegation that have joined us today. If I've neglected anyone, please raise your hand, wave as we all do, and Zoom to get attention.
Stuart, I meant to say, and I apologize, I do have a 9:30 Zoom meeting that I need to step out of this meeting so I can make sure I attend that. So I apologize for having to leave, but want to keep in touch with everyone. So wanted to let you know that. Thanks.
Thank you. And I'm happy to follow up with you if you want to have a conversation after you have to leave. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Perfect. Perfect.
Thank you all for making time. David, did you want to take over here and talk about kind of what's going to happen?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Little, and welcome everybody. Glad to see you all here. We're going to go ahead and put everyone on mute. We've got a chat function. If you bring your cursor to the bottom of the screen, you'll see the chat function pop up. And if you have questions, go ahead and enter those into the chat. We want to keep this meeting as succinct as we can and have it move quickly. So we'll pull questions in via chat. Dr. Little communicated with you yesterday and let you know that because we have a majority of our Board of Education here on the meeting, we did need to notice the meeting. So it is a public meeting. The public is able to watch the meeting via a YouTube link, which we have sent out. So it's just to remind you of that. But our board won't be really commenting here. They will be commenting at our next board meeting, which is on Monday. So after, I'll turn it back to Dr. Little, and he is going to introduce our superintendent. And thanks for being here.
There we go. I'm the host and I muted myself. Dr. Fulton has a couple of presentations that he wanted to provide you all to give you some updates. And if you need anything from me, Dr. Fulton, otherwise proceed.
Okay, thank you very much. Great to see everybody this morning. Thanks for taking time to join us. I'm going to actually share a presentation that we've been doing with our community related to bond issue, but I'm going to do some value added with this around some topics that I think may be of interest to you. So let me first start by talking about a quick COVID update. Shawnee Mission, like all the other Johnson County school districts and really districts around the country, are doing their best to try to keep all students in school with in-person learning. That's been a challenge. We've been successful in doing that with elementary. We struggled with secondary students in large part because of staffing issues. We just don't have enough subs to address all of our needs pre-K through 12. So we prioritized our pre-K through 12, pre-K through 6 learners, because in Shawnee Mission elementary school goes up through 6th grade. And then we've done our best to try to keep our secondary students in school as well. We were successful for a while with our secondary students, and then after Thanksgiving, we had to pull back and go to remote through the end of the semester, which is January 22nd. We did announce yesterday that we'll be bringing our secondary students back into a hybrid model for second semester, which will start on the 25th, 26th. So we're really hopeful with recent events around the vaccine. The faster that vaccines can get to educators, the better, because that is going to allow us to stabilize our workforce. And when we can do that, and continue to take the existing protocols that we have in place for mitigating spread, such as masks and appropriate distancing, then that's going to give us the best chance of getting all students in school every day, all day. And that ultimately is, of course, everyone's goal. So with that, I'm going to go into kind of a big picture overview of where we're at as a school district. And I want to really focus in on some key points that I think are perhaps relevant to your role as legislators. You know, school districts, as with any organization, it's really important that we be mission focused and also have clear outcomes about what we're trying to achieve. Shawnee Mission, as you probably know, a couple of years ago, engaged our community in developing a long-range strategic plan. Specifically, we're looking at the next 5 years, but really the plan's designed to look well beyond 5 years toward the future of who we're going to be as a school district long-term. And so as part of that mission, we are absolutely focused on making sure that we meet the needs of every child that we serve, and doing so in a way that embraces their own uniquenesses, the diversity of our student population and our community, make sure that we have an inclusive culture, that our community is engaged in this process, and that we're providing our students with great opportunities for their learning. And the way that we frame this is that we have a really clear destination on what we want to achieve. We want to make sure, consistent with really with Kansas expectations for all of its learners, that every one of our students has a personalized learning plan. It is really important for students as they go through the learning process to have meaning in their work. We all want that in our work. And one of the ways you do that with students is you get them engaged in thinking about where they are as a learner and where they're going. Whether that's a kindergartner thinking about what happens the next day, or as children age, they begin to think longer term about what career interests they might have. But in order to realize their own personalized learning plan, they have to have a really solid foundation. And so we're committed to making sure that we engage our students in mastering those essential competencies that ensure that they're college and career ready, and that they have the interpersonal skills that they need for life success. On the left of that screen, you see this circle, and on the outside of the wheel, if you will, you see these 5 color-coded categories. I want to talk about each one of those very briefly because it really ties into what you do as legislators. We'll start with learning. You know, schools are for learning. That's what we do. That's what K-12, pre-K-12 education is there for. We want to get kids ready for their future. And so one of the things that we're engaged in regionally is an effort called Real World Learning. This effort is being funded by the Kauffman Foundation. It involves 6 counties in the KC metro area. And on the Kansas side, that includes Wyandotte and Johnson. Shawnee Mission and Olathe were the first 2 districts in Johnson County to sign up to be part of this Real World Learning initiative. And basically what this initiative is all about is reconceptualizing high schools in ways that really engage every student in thinking about what they want to do with their life. What are their plans for college and or career? And importantly, connect them to experiences while they're in high school or even before high school around those interests. So we are spending a lot of time right now directly working with businesses to make sure that we're getting our students experiences in the real world of learning so that they can understand what some of these careers look like. Kauffman has funded for the next couple of years a position in our district that specifically is designed to help our students and our schools connect with business owners, large and small, to help make internships a reality. So fortunately for us, all of this initiative was just getting started as we were putting our strategic plan together. So we have very specific action steps in our strategic plan around being clear about the competencies we want all of our students to learn, making sure that students are progressing forward in their learning in ways that don't leave kids behind, but make sure that they're ready for high school course content. And while they're in high school, giving them the opportunity to explore careers that are of interest to them so they can find meaning and relevance in the courses that they're taking. Areas that are going to be critical in order for this work to move forward on perhaps legislatively is we need to continue to look at any roadblocks that we might have to having a good competency-based learning models. We need good assessment practice that supports meaningful learning and that assessments, in fact, support the learning process versus being a side note to it. And we also are going to need to have funding in ways that supports the kinds of collaboration that really get schools and businesses together in ways that help students explore career options for themselves. So that's a very exciting initiative that's happening specifically in the KC metro area, but the ideas that we're all engaged in transfer to Kansas as a whole. I might add too, and finally, with this Real World Learning Initiative, while Olathe and Shawnee Mission led the way for Kansas school districts, specifically Wyandotte and Johnson County, we anticipate that in the next two waves, you're going to see most, if not all, Johnson County school districts participating in this initiative. In fact, most of them are already signed up for the next phases. A couple of other quick things. Excuse me. Under the issue of culture, we are spending a lot of time helping our students and our staff engage in being engaged in a diverse workforce. We want to make sure that as part of being a good member of society, that our staff and our students understand the importance of having an inclusive culture. And we can do that by doing cultural proficiency training with all of our staff to make sure that we're seeing the strengths that each of us brings to this world and that we're able to see the world through different multiple lenses, not just our own lens. As important as our own lens are, it's important to see the world through multiple lenses. So we're helping with cultural proficiency training to help make that happen with all staff. On the issue of people, we're going to talk about that in just a minute. It's critical, of course, and we've seen that this year with the pandemic, that in-person teacher-student relationship matters. One of the things that we're trying to do is get our secondary schools, get our staff more time so they can help students develop these personalized learning plans so that they can master the competencies that are important to their life's future in ways that help them be successful. But in order to do that at the secondary level, we need to add some additional staff and give our staff time to do the planning and the connecting with students that's necessary in order to be successful in achieving these three objectives that you see in front of you. I'll talk more about how one of our strategies for that in a second. Also talk with you about some of the details around facilities. And then importantly, systems. We are really working hard to take a systems approach to problem solving. So you have to think about where you're at in the moment, but you also have to think about where you're going to be a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. And you need to use data to inform the decisions that you make. So I might add this, and our board members are participating in this today. They have done a great job in their part of the strategic plan, not only approving it, but also they have a very specific role related to policy. And so they're engaged in policy development that supports the successful implementation of this strategic plan, both with respect to the mission, but also with respect to engaging in work that helps every child realize this destination in their life. So let me use that as a jumping off point to talk specifically about what we're doing with this bond issue, because this is more than just about a bond issue. This is about a vision for where we're going as a school district in the years ahead. First and foremost, we are really spending time stepping back and studying issues. You've got to really understand where you're going before you can make good decisions on how to act. And so we are using this study First, plan things out based on the study, and then act based on what you feel are the best courses to get you to the destination that we just talked about. And so we've been doing that, and we've been doing it in a way that's transparent, is engaging with our community, takes on hard issues, and there's a lot of hard issues that we have to take on in schools, and we're not going to shy away from that, but we are going to do it in a way that's thoughtful and inclusive. And I think that what we did with strategic planning and since then is indicative of that. So the timeline for the planning process on the bond you see in front of you, a couple of things I want to make note of. As part of this inclusiveness, we in the fall of 2019, once the strategic plan was approved by the board in the summer of 19, engaged site councils. Every building has a site council made up of parents and staff, as well as some students in some cases. We engaged them on what was going on with the strategic plan, this bond issue. They were actively part of that continuous improvement process. And we also had a facilities open house for our community. Now the board, in addition to these engagement steps, also formed a finance and facilities committee composed of patrons. The purpose of that committee is to advise the board and superintendent on important issues around the district finances and around the facilities. And everything that you're going to see in this presentation has been vetted by that group, and they're supportive of what it is that we're doing. And then we also engaged our community in some surveying this past summer, and I'll kind of talk about that a little bit later. In October 26th, the board did approve a resolution to put a bond issue on the ballot, and as you know, that's occurring. At the end of the day, this is about taking a great school district, a national class school district, and getting even better as we move forward in the years ahead. This work is not tied to any one individual. It's not tied to any one board member. It's not tied to any one superintendent. It is a collective effort among all of us for the long haul to make sure that Shawnee Mission is staying strong and getting even better in the years ahead. Specifically in this bond proposal, there are four areas it supports. First and foremost, student learning. It represents a transparent planning process. It maintains the lowest mill levy in Johnson County, both now and well into the future. And in accordance with our strategic plan in ways that we designed out and have carefully thought through, it supports our ability to sustainably fund reducing workload for our secondary teachers so that they can work with every one of our students on achieving those three objectives that we talked about. Specifically, the bond issue addresses the following areas: 5 elementary rebuilds, renovations that are important, like for early childhood. We had to close our old Carpenter building where our early childhood program was and move them to Broadmoor Early Childhood Center, newly named Broadmoor Early Childhood Center. Well, Broadmoor's not really set up for our youngest learners, bathrooms, et cetera. So we need to do some work with that facility to make it work for our youngest children. We also have updates to our high schools and middle schools. There's technology and security upgrades, and of course, the normal things that you see in a bond issue of HVAC, lighting, and so on. We'll demolish the old Carpenter building. We're just going to hang on that land for the moment to see if there's any kind of future need. Most of the work in this bond issue that's been identified is going to come from the bond. There is about 5.2 million that's been identified through capital. This gives you a little bit of an idea of where our mill levy sits. You can see that Shawnee Mission currently has the lowest mill levy rate. Even though this bond issue involves a modest tax rate increase, we're still well below Johnson County peers. And even with the next 2 bond issues projected out, because we have about $750 million worth of work we've identified over the next 20 years, even with modest tax rate increases in those 2 bond issues, we still, with this plan, stay well below our Johnson County peers in terms of mill levy. So I think that's important to note. A lot of care has been given in making sure that we're using our resources wisely. Now, there's an important piece happening, and this is why we have this modest tax rate increase in our mill levy. Currently in Shawnee Mission, we have paid for some new construction out of capital. What we're going to do is we're going to take all that new construction And we're going to do all new construction going forward out of bond money only. As of now, we pay about $4.5 million of custodial and maintenance, around a little over $4 million of custodial and maintenance salaries out of capital. We currently have about $4.5 million out of capital that's being paid for new construction. We got some bonds we're paying off this year and next year. Our plan is to take that 4.5 million that we're spending on new construction out of capital and use that to pay for additional custodial and maintenance salaries, so that we're freeing up the 4.5 million in custodial maintenance salaries currently being spent out of operating, free that up so we can hire teachers at the secondary level and address the needs that we have to make sure we can achieve these three objectives. That is a strategy that is not only allowed under statute, but importantly, it's the only way that we can really effectively address long-term this issue of needs that we have at the secondary level to increase staff so we can effectively achieve our objectives. So quickly here, I'll go through an overview of this. On the operating fund, as a reminder, the operating fund is for salaries and benefits, daily operating expenses. Anything involving cash flow has to come out of the operating fund. And if you want to add staff, you really have to use the operating fund. Custodial maintenance out of capital, those are the only salaries you can pay for out of any fund other than the operating fund when it comes to state monies. Now, in the course of doing this, one of the challenges that we've had in Shawnee Mission is we've been running really low reserves, dangerously low reserves. And so at times we didn't even have 1 month expenses covered. And that concerned us, concerned the board. And so one of the things that we're going to do and have done is already now, it's developed a policy that said, look, we have to maintain at least 1 month expenses as a minimum. That's just a good business practice. And ideally, we try to stay in that 10 to 15% range so that we're not putting in jeopardy the ability to pay people and to keep electrical bills being paid and so on. So the board, and all this was vetted through the Finance and Facilities Committee, who are supportive of this concept. The board has already adopted a policy that says we're going to maintain at least 8.3% balances with the goal of 10 to 15% when possible for cash flow purposes out of operating. You can see that with this new staffing that we've talked about in terms of secondary workload, 4.5 million of custodial maintenance salaries is going to be moved into capital. That money will then be used to reduce secondary workload so we can meet our objectives. And then there's some new money that's coming in from the state. This past year in negotiations, we already walled off $921,000 of that 1.3 million. And so we've got, little over about 400,000 more to go. And we'll have to work on that in the next year or so. Another piece of this long-range planning work is when you begin to move custodial maintenance salaries into the capital fund, you have to be really careful because that capital fund has specific purposes. You don't want to spend too much of it on custodial maintenance salaries. And so the board has approved a policy that says we're putting a hard cap of 25% on custodial maintenance salaries out of our capital fund. And that policy has been passed. Here's an idea of how the capital fund is currently being used and how things will change and why this bond issue is important. Currently, about routine maintenance, we're spending about 36% of capital on routine maintenance. Another 21% is used for technology and technology leases. I'm sorry, 31% for technology and technology leases. 5% for equipment and furniture. We can also do equipment and furniture out of bond. 13% currently is used for custodial maintenance, and then 29% for these bond payments for new construction. We have 2 more years of bond payments, this year and next year, and then we're done. That zeroes out. No more new construction through capital. It's all going to come through bond issues, which is why this bond issue matters in terms of this long-range plan that we put together. You can see that over the next 2 years, we'll increase the number of custodial maintenance salaries that are going into capital. And now by 22-23, you've got a long-range plan. So from 1 year to the next, substantively, this is where we'll spend our capital money. So as part of this bond issue planning, I mentioned before, we had identified $750 million in bond issue projects over the next 18 years. We took a very, very conservative approach to this. We looked at assessed valuation on the low end for increasing. And there's a reason we did that. I'll tell you that in a second. We also went out as we were doing this work and we surveyed our community this past summer, and we asked them 3 different scenarios. What would you support a bond issue that involved didn't involve a tax rate increase? And the answer, about 83% of the people said, yes, we would support that. Then we said, well, look, what if we had a modest tax rate increase that amounted to about $8 per $100,000 home value? It's a 0.708 mill levy increase. 78% of those surveyed said that they would strongly favor that approach. And then we asked, well, what if we went out for a $22 tax rate increase per $100,000 home value? And it still got strong support, about 63%. But the board, in weighing all of this, had to really think through, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We know people are struggling. There's a lot of support for a no tax rate increase. There's a lot of support for a modest tax rate increase, less support for a bigger tax rate increase at this time. And so wisely, they chose to put this modest tax rate increase on the ballot. Now you can see going forward, this carries us for the next 5 years. And then we went ahead and identified, well, what happens after that? What happens after this current ballot issue? Well, we've got 2 other bond issues identified that get us to the $750 million, protect the capital fund, no longer using capital for new construction, only doing that through bonds. These next 2 bond issues, and the one in 26-27 and 32-33, would allow us to continue to do elementary rebuilds as they're conceived. Of course, that's not what's on the ballot. What's on the ballot is what you see for 2021. This $264.2 million bond issue. So I will stop there and stop sharing the screen, and we'll be happy to respond to any questions.
I can't believe I'm doing this more of a comment, really, which I hate being that guy, but the last bit of messaging that you had, especially with that $8 per $100,000 home, that is something that really resonates with my constituents, because now I can say, gosh, for just $16 a year, you too can have. And that's, I think, a pretty succinct, easily understandable way to talk to your constituents about this, because I brought up the bond issue in my December town hall and I got a lot of how much will this cost me? And so thank you for having that calculation. That really just helps make a lot more sense for people. So just thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that. We've worked really hard at transparency and effective communication. And you can always get better with that, right? Because it's something it's a continuous improvement piece. But just putting things in very simple terms that people can easily calculate what's the impact on me is important. Now they can go to the polls and make a decision for themselves on whether that's something they want to support or not. But and I think also being honest about where we're going to be in the next 20 years is equally important. There's no game planning going on. We're just laying it out. If we want to get better as a district, we have our destination set. We have to fund it long term. We have to do it in a sustainable way. What is that going to take? Well, we've laid it out. And I also want to thank the legislature, thank all of you for getting the funding formula fixed, because I'll tell you, you cannot improve as an organization unless you have the ability to do long-range planning. And now with stability and funding, you can make the kinds of decisions that we've been able to make, knowing with confidence that this plan is going to work. If you don't know what your funding is going to be, that makes it really tough. And you hate to regress in your work. The pandemic's thrown a curveball to all of us, but the good news is we had a plan in place. The pandemic will end. This plan keeps going.
I guess if no one else has another question, I do just have another one. I have seen that there are a lot of groups that have really bonded together, oh God, no pun intended, on the bond issue. Who do we have who is in opposition? Any pushback, anything that we're noticing that, you know, perhaps we can assist with?
Yeah, good question. You know, as a school district, we stay neutral. We just provide the information, but we do monitor. There are certainly groups that are in support of the bond issue. There may be some groups that are opposing it, but we've not. It's not heavily on our radar screen, and that's about all I can provide. Whether there may be a few Facebook groups out there, but I just don't. There's nothing that's become obvious to us. And David, you can certainly weigh in on that if you choose.
I'd agree. I don't know of any organized opposition.
I wanted to acknowledge Representative Shu, who apparently is setting up second breakfast here, has joined us as well. But Representative Stogstill had his hand up a minute ago, and then Senator Corson, I see you there too.
Yes, I just had a quick question about, is there any estimate about how many or how much school district funding has had to be diverted to address COVID issues that will then be able to be placed back into the areas that they were originally intended for at this point? Is that going to be significant? And hopefully we'll be able to, you know, get rid of some of this money spent on COVID activities in the next year, please.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, you know, we got our original 2.3 million, and we have used or designated the use of all of that for things that really were directly tied to COVID-related expenses. Whether that's technology support or you know, safety, hiring some additional supports around our nurses, who are really doing an amazing job. I mean, they are just, it's incredible. All of our staff are doing an amazing job in a really tough situation, but you know, they've really had to take the lead on the health side. So that 2.3 million went pretty quick. But to answer your question, really, we are looking at COVID-related expenses and charging as many of those off as one-time expenses as we can. And of course, the little bit of the unknown here is we don't know what we're into for the next year or more, as it pertains to not just direct COVID-related expenses, but incidental effect, like students who may have fallen behind in their learning. You know, we're going to be we're tracking all of that. We want to make sure that this doesn't impact children for the rest of their lives. And we know there's going to have to be some intervention strategies we're going to have to put into place. And so that's where the use of any additional monies we might be able to receive would be helpful to target students who need it the most.
Yeah.
So those are things that we're going to be watching. We are watching, and we'll continue to watch really carefully and try to target those funds in ways that it really helps ensure that our children and our staff get what they need.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Corson, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, for those of us who do support the bond, which I know I very much do, I was wondering what we could do to be allies and to help get the word out, because this is just a quirky time. It's a mail-only election. It's January. What can we do? I've tried to do some social media around it. I think I got this in the mail yesterday, and I think this is so well done. I really applaud you for that. I think the website with the special section on the bond issuance is really top notch and really well done. But what else can we do just to let folks know, our constituents, that this is happening. This is really important for the health of our district. What could we do to be allies for the bond proposal?
Yeah, thank you for that. Again, I'll stay on the informational side of it versus the directional vote yes, vote no side. But we have a lot of materials on our website that are designed for public consumption. And we have a specific part of our website that's dedicated to the bond issue. I would really encourage you to go there or direct people to that part of our website so they become an informed voter. I mean, the story, like I just shared with you, is laid out. And that informational flyer that we sent was designed to tell the story as well. So I think it's important to get as many people to vote as possible and really be an informed voter before they fill out that ballot.
I'd like to add something to that, Mike, if I can. You're all elected, you know what it's like to run a campaign. Now imagine if you were prohibited from participating and advocating for how you thought that campaign would turn out. So when you have allies who are supportive of the district and supportive of the long-term plans of the district, it is really useful if those folks can step in and do some of the advocacy that others are unable to do.
I put the link to the bond website into the chat, so you can have it there if you need it.
And I think some of you all that may be having first newsletters, here's the beginning of the session, either virtual or physical or coffees or any of those kinds of things, are going to be opportunities for you all to raise that issue with constituents if you're going to do those as the legislative session begins.
I have a question. Do we anticipate any kind of long-term employment effects out of COVID? I'm sure a lot of people kind of maybe retired earlier than they would have otherwise expected. I know staffing is already an issue, so I don't know if those early retirements has any sort of long-term effects on employment prospects or what you guys are seeing.
That's a great question. I think we'll probably be okay. It certainly had an impact first semester, no question about it, and really through the remainder of this year, because we did have a number of staff for very understandable reasons, just personal safety reasons, elect to either resign or retire either before the start of the year or during the year, and we're being very sensitive to those needs. We have been able to go out, recruit, and hire a number of December graduates. That's really going to help second semester because we've had substitutes throughout first semester in some of these classrooms. Now we can begin to get full-time teachers in there, freeing up the subs that are there to be placed in buildings where we need them. I think long-term we'll probably be okay, but it's going to continue to be a struggle through this year for Shawnee Mission and really probably most school districts on the staffing side because of some of the things that you described. I do think the faster that we can get people vaccinated to where staff are protected, that is really, really important. I mean, it can't happen fast enough. We recognize there's going to be issues with getting children vaccinated that will take longer. But if we get the adults vaccinated and get them protected, that's going to make a big difference in what we're going to be able to do with getting all students back in every day.
Representative Ruiz, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, this is a COVID-related question again, too. I have had conversations with several paraprofessionals who have been concerned about, they're not really able to receive any kind of pay while they are not working, and so they're concerned, and my concern is too, is the continuity of being able to keep your paraprofessionals that are working with children in our special education classrooms, and having to have a turnover, because if they can't be paid, then they'll have to go out and look for other employment. So has anything like that been talked about, or how is the school district handling that right now?
Yeah, great question. A couple of things that we've done to address that. We recognize that if they're not getting paid, they can't financially afford to wait around, right, until they get paid again. They need to be working. So we've worked really hard to keep payment going to our staff, to paraprofessionals, to food service, so that as we bring students, either keep students in school or bring them back into school, we have those supports in place. The other thing that the board did and recently is some of the additional revenue that we received from the state, about $250,000 or so. We really analyzed where we were with our classified staff, and some of them were really not at market rate in terms of Johnson County. In other words, you could go to another district and get paid more. And so we corrected that this year and added additional money into their salary schedule so that they could get a wage that we felt was fair according to the market with meeting their needs. So keeping people employed, finding meaningful work for example, food service workers. Some of them are helping out with some of the additional custodial duties if they wanted to do that. And we're finding ways to keep people employed and going, because we know that just like we did at elementary, once we brought everybody back in, we needed everybody there, right? So we kept everybody on board so that could happen. And we want the same thing to happen with secondary as soon as we can safely do it. Again, the vaccine will be key. So I don't know. Does that answer your question? Okay.
I want to be mindful of your time. We can go over if you want to, but Representative Stogsdill, you had another question, I believe.
Yeah, this is just kind of a quick follow-up on Representative Shu's question. Are there any particular areas that you're having a hard time recruiting teachers for, like elementary or secondary math and science, that sort of thing, that you just curious about that?
Well, special education is a huge hotspot. Now, part of that, I think, goes to some of the certification requirements in Kansas, but honestly, special education is a huge need area, not just in Shawnee Mission, but throughout the state. You know, that's a great question, because if Shawnee Mission is struggling with getting enough special ed teachers, you know the rest of the state is really having a difficult time with it, because we're fortunate. We can generally recruit people into these positions. There's always going to be a need for anything that's STEM related, you know, especially as we try to ramp up opportunities in business. So math and science continue to be hotspots that we need to address. And that's something I could do some more research on if you're interested and get some more data. Yeah. That would be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have a question, comment? I would note the board the next meeting or two is going to finalize a legislative agenda. There are obviously funding issues, continuation of addressing the Gannon decision, state funding issues. We have an issue with the high density at risk component of the school finance formula. There was legislation last year that became a proviso in the budget bill, Senate Bill 66, that was passed at the regular session, at the special session. And then obviously there's going to be a lot of legislation coming out that we're all hearing about non-public schools. So there's going to be some significant discussion on lots of those kind of topics. And once the board finalizes what they want to have in their platform, and that is approved, we'll make sure that you all receive that. To the extent that we are allowed to see you face to face in the State House, we will be by to visit with you and talk about the legislative platform as well. But I just wanted you to know that is in the works, and that is coming, and there are going to be a significant amount of issues, particularly those of you on the ed and the K-12 ed budget committees are going to deal with. I don't know if anybody, Dr. Fulton, President Owsley, anybody have any comments here?
Thank you all for coming today, and best of luck with the upcoming session. I hope that your colleagues practice risk mitigation and wear their masks and socially distance for all of your sakes. And we appreciate your willingness to go and serve right now with those risk variables in place.
Well, thank you everyone for coming. I know you have lots to do. I appreciate your participation. If you have any questions or follow up, obviously David and I can get you answers and everything. So thank you very much for your time. Best of luck. Be safe. We'll see you. And those of you coming to Topeka, we'll see you next week.